In 2021, Elon Musk added $121 billion to his net worth. Yet, according to publicly available tax filings, he paid less than 3% in federal income tax. Meanwhile, an average middle-class worker earning $60,000 a year paid roughly 22%. It sounds unfair, almost like the system is broken. But what if I told you it's not? It's working exactly as designed, just not for you. This is the secret playbook of the ultra-rich. It's not just about earning more. It's about never selling and never paying. A system built on 3 quiet words: borrow, buy, die. In this episode, we'll uncover how billionaires legally avoid paying taxes while still living like kings. We'll break down how this borrow, buy, die loop works, where it came from, and why it keeps the wealthiest people rich across generations. Finally, we'll ask, could regular people ever use the same system? And what happens when everyone tries? Chapter 1: The Illusion of Income. Let's start with a simple truth. Most of us think of wealth as income, what we earn from our jobs. We trade time for money, then pay taxes before we even touch it. But for billionaires, income is an inconvenience. They don't get rich by earning more. They get rich by owning more. Take Jeff Bezos. When Amazon's stock soars, his net worth rises. But unless he sells those shares, that gain isn't taxed. On paper, he becomes richer. But to the IRS, it's as if nothing happened. This is the foundation of the system. We tax realized income, not unrealized wealth. And that single distinction separates billionaires from everyone else. Chapter 2: The Buy Phase, Wealth and Assets. Now that we understand income isn't the real game, let's move to the first step: buy. The ultra-rich use their money, or often other people's money, to buy appreciating assets. These can be stocks, real estate, or even entire companies. For example, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway rarely sells its holdings. It simply accumulates ownership in businesses that keep generating more value over time. As those assets rise, so does Buffett's wealth, but because he doesn't sell, he doesn't trigger taxes. His wealth compounds silently, untouched by the tax system designed for wage earners. This is the quiet beauty of the buy phase. It transforms income into capital, and capital into a permanent engine of growth. Chapter 3: The Borrow Phase, Living Tax-Free. But here's the obvious problem. If you never sell anything, how do you live? You still need cash for houses, jets, or even just groceries. This is where the borrow phase comes in. Instead of selling assets and paying taxes, billionaires use their stock portfolios or real estate as collateral for massive loans. Imagine you own $1 billion in Tesla stock. You walk into a private bank, pledge a small fraction of that as collateral, and borrow, say, $100 million. You can use that cash to buy homes, yachts, or invest in other ventures, completely tax-free, because technically it's a loan, not income. Even better, interest payments on these loans are often tax-deductible. So not only do they avoid taxes, they can sometimes write off the cost of borrowing. This strategy is known on Wall Street as asset-backed borrowing. It's how the rich turn illiquid wealth into spendable money without ever selling a thing. According to a 2021 ProPublica investigation, many billionaires, including Musk, Bezos, and Bloomberg, rely on this structure to fund their lifestyles while reporting little to no taxable income. Chapter 4: The Die Phase, the Final Trick. Here's where it gets truly elegant and disturbing. When a billionaire dies, their heirs inherit those assets at market value, not at the original purchase price. This is called a step-up in basis. Let's say someone bought $10 million in stock decades ago, and it's now worth $100 million. If they sold it while alive, they'd owe capital gains taxes on that $90 million increase. But if they die and pass it on, the heir's cost basis resets to $100 million. The $90 million gain completely erased. No tax, no penalty. The slate is wiped clean. That's the die part of the strategy. The debts from borrowing are often settled by selling a small portion of the estate. Again, often with favorable treatment. And the cycle continues, generation after generation. Chapter 5. Why the System Rewards Ownership. At this point, it's easy to feel frustrated. How can someone pay less tax than their employees? But this system didn't appear by accident. It's the result of decades of policy choices that favor investment over labor. Capital gains taxes are lower than income taxes because governments want to encourage investment. They see it as the engine of economic growth. If you reward ownership, you reward innovation, business creation, and risk-taking. And to some extent, it worked. The stock market boom of the last half-century has fueled immense technological progress, but it's also widened the wealth gap to record levels. According to a 2023 Oxfam report, the world's richest 1% captured almost two-thirds of all new wealth created since 2020. That's $42 trillion, more than enough to end global poverty several times over. Chapter 6. The Psychological Shift. Thinking like Capital. The difference between the middle class and the ultra-rich isn't just money, it's mindset. Most people save to spend. The wealthy save to leverage. They don't think, how much can I earn? They think, how much can I own? And how can that ownership work for me? This perspective shift, from labor to capital, is subtle but powerful. When you start seeing money not as an end, but as a tool of control, you begin to understand how the system operates. Even small investors can mimic elements of this approach, investing through index funds, real estate, or tax-advantaged accounts like IRAs or 401ks. It's not about becoming a billionaire. It's about adopting their strategy at your scale. Chapter 7. The Breaking Point. When everyone tries to play the game. But here's the twist. If everyone saves like a billionaire, the system stops working. Why? Because borrowing against assets only makes sense if assets keep rising. And that requires an ever-growing demand for capital, fueled by debt, speculation, and central bank support. When the system depends on asset prices never falling, it becomes fragile. We saw this during the 2008 financial crisis. Leverage works wonders in good times, but in a downturn, it becomes a trap. This is why the Federal Reserve and central banks often step in during market crashes. They don't just protect investors, they protect the structure that modern wealth depends on. It's not just about money, it's about preserving the game itself. Chapter 8. Reform or Revolution. Economists and policymakers have debated for decades how to fix this imbalance. Some suggest a wealth tax, taxing assets themselves, not just income. Others propose closing the step-up loophole or taxing unrealized gains above certain thresholds. But implementing such systems is complex. Valuing private assets accurately, avoiding capital flight, and maintaining economic incentives are massive challenges. That's why, despite constant debate, nothing major has changed. The borrow-buy-die loop remains perfectly legal and perfectly effective. When you strip it down, this system isn't about greed or corruption. It's about understanding incentives and playing the game differently. Billionaires don't cheat the system. They use it, the same way it was built to reward ownership, leverage, and patience. The lesson isn't to envy them, but to learn from them. Understand that wealth is not what you earn. It's what you control and how long you can keep it working for you. Still, there's a moral question here. Can a society survive when wealth compounds faster than wages? When the rich live tax-free while ordinary workers struggle under inflation and debt? Every financial revolution begins with trust and ends when that trust collapses. The borrow-buy-die system is elegant, until it isn't. When too many people feel excluded from the benefits, pressure builds, and history shows it always finds a way to reset. If this story gave you a new perspective on how money really works, take a moment to think about your own strategy. Are you earning or are you owning? Because the rules of wealth have changed, and understanding them might be the most valuable investment you ever make. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing for more stories about how money, power, and technology shape our world. This is Cold Insight. Thanks for listening.